The hosts of Two Bored Apes are not registered investment advisors. The podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only. Nothing said on it should be construed as investment advice.
Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two Bored Apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff.
Welcome to episode 38 of Two Bored Apes. I'm your host, Jamie. I'm here with my friend and co-host, Roy. Roy, I forgot the name of the podcast for a second. How are you?
I'm well. I was wondering why you were laughing. Did you call it Two Bored Apes? Did you stumble?
I think I got it.
Yeah.
It was just a pause while I had to think of it.
Well, yes, we're here. This is Two Bored Apes. I'm good. I've not had an enormous meal. I had a bowl of cereal, perfectly adequate sized bowl
meal
of cereal. Yeah, and I'm ready to jump into some questions.
Some Twitter Q&A questions. All right, I'll take the first one. Emergency says, if you had $26 million in cash right now, what would you spend it on? And then in parentheses, they say, pay no attention to this dollar amount. Now, I believe this is a reference to the VaynerPass drop yesterday.
Yeah.
Where $26 million was spent on gas total or just in failed transactions. I can't remember. I think it was
I don't know either. Makes sense for it to be total. Yeah, which is a lot of money.
Which was like over 3 times more than the drop itself.
Yeah.
Raised.
And this thing used to happen like every second day back in like September. There were gas wars just all the time, and then we moved to like mint lists and gas optimized contracts, and it seemed like it's largely a thing of the past. But then this drop
this contract was not gas optimized.
It was not.
Now there was sort of a postmortem by AJ where he was kind of talking about some of the future interoperability and mechanics that they had built into the contract that they thought were really important, but that then made the contract much more costly to mint. And I think especially maybe one of the biggest parts was it was costly to have a failed transaction, because there's sort of a difference between paying a lot of gas for a transaction that goes through and one that doesn't go through. And some of the contracts, when you have a failed transaction, the amount you lose is very small. And this was not the case for this contract.
Not at all. A lot of people unhappy. I think rightfully so. Yeah, I mean, I guess let's answer the question, and then we can get into the.
Yeah, because I kind of think they just want us to have fun talking about that more. I'm not sure, but I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you had $26 million in cash right now, let's assume not literally bills in your house, but like let's say.
Oh yeah, that would be a pain.
Liquid money, ETH or stable coins or bank account dollars, etc. What would you spend $26 million on? Assuming you have to spend it. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to put it in
You're really mocking that hypothetical version of me. Kayla and I would like to move closer to the water, a little bit further south in the state of Rhode Island, and are planning on doing it in the not too distant future. But I guess we could just kind of move that plan up and also get a even nicer house than planned by quite a bit. If all of a sudden we had $26 million extra dollars. I guess I could start there. You know, I've gotten so into art collecting all of a sudden, I could definitely splash a lot of money at that. But boy, I mean, once you really start doing it,
it goes
26
quickly.
million can get you nowhere. There's a lot of stuff where you can get less than one half of that one piece of art for the 26 million. So you have to be careful going, oh, I'll just start dabbling on art because, you know, that can go not particularly far. Although, you know, as I've talked about a bit lately and sort of all throughout the podcast, but this book I'm reading about the history of computer art has got me really into the history of generative art specifically. And as I've done it more and appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. But basically the real pioneers of that are people whose work is expensive to normal people, but not to people who just got $26 million airdropped to them. So I could definitely collect like some Manfred Moores and some Vera Molnars. That
how expensive are we talking for those?
Like for higher end pieces from them, maybe $15,000, $25,000, like in that kind of range. and lower end ones, less. But
that's 5 ETH.
right. But the other thing too is though, like the provenance is not there really. I mean, they can tell me it's there. They can go, that's their signature, but like I have no idea. But again, if I have $26 million, I can just hope that it's real, I guess. What else would
you buy a house and some NFT and some art?
I need a new car. I have a shitty Chevy Malibu it was shitty the day I bought it, and it's only gotten shittier. So I would probably get myself a nice car too. Let's see. I'm gonna have to wrap up soon, so you can go. Let me think of one other good thing to spend too much money on. The answers come.
What's a really specific NFT that you really want?
Oh, that's a good question. I would definitely get at least a Fidenza for sure. That's a good way to view it. That would be the first of the just I have too much money and now I'm going to spend it on NFTs. I would definitely get a nice Fidenza. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. House is also something that makes a ton of sense.
The DVDs of the show.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So Rachel and I were moving back to Australia next year. We have an apartment that we bought a few months ago.
I'm still laughing at my bad
we're looking forward to. But yeah, I mean, I guess we could get something nicer, something closer to the water in a better location, all that kind of jazz. I mean, you had $26 million. Your first instinct is kind of like a really nice house.
Right.
So that's probably one of the things.
Do you know about NetJets?
No.
It's some sort of it's a company that's under the Berkshire Hathaway conglomerate, but it's sort of something like an Uber or subscription service for private jets. I would probably look into that. It might be too expensive though.
Yeah.
But flying private is sick, and to have some sort of way to do it without having to buy a jet, which is too expensive, or just charter one each individual time. It seems like it's some sort of interesting value proposition. Let's look into NetJets.
You
keep talking, and I'll look into how NetJets works.
So we got a house. I want to get. My first instinct is NFTs because I love NFTs. I would get a 1 of 1 by Sealite, a 1 of 1 by DK, a 1 of 1 X copy. Those are like
that DK was very cool the other day.
The Life and Death, I think it was called.
Yeah,
that was a great one. Super cool. I would probably get some more art blocks, even though I have a ton. I love art blocks. I would get maybe a couple. I would spend like a few million on. I don't need to spend more on NFTs, but I just would. It's just like I love NFTs.
It's funny too. By the way, I looked at your wallet the other day. You had 5,600 NFTs in it, and then it's like, oh, you're getting a bunch of money. What are you going to buy? And the answer is NFTs.
Yeah, and that's like, when you include my hidden folder and I think close to 50,000 NFTs, that's ridiculous. It's literally breaking tax software. They're trying to.
Oh, you know what? I would definitely have to get a garden monolith too.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, I want a real garden, like just a house that has an awesome garden. Like yeah. That's kind of like I don't really
put a monolith in there.
Yeah. I'd go eat at some really nice restaurants. I'd travel business class or first class, I guess. That would be fun. I don't need private. And then
I don't need it either, but I'm getting. I just got $26 million. I got to spend it on something.
And then a car. When we don't have a car here. When we go back to Australia, I want a Tesla. They seem cool.
The Model 3 or the SUV one? Or
probably the SUV. I don't know anything about them, but really, and like all of that's like what? That's like $6 million. And the house is probably like $4 million of that. Right? Yeah,
and the NFTs.
Yeah. $26 million is a lot of money.
It is crazy.
It's a lot of money. I would,
especially to get all at once for no good reason.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's definitely some cool things we can do to scale Zen Academy in 333. Like, just hire a bunch of people to come on and build out like just more of the world and universe and education platform, like stuff and content. And yeah, I would probably sink a chunk of it into that. Yeah.
Maybe we can give some to charity too. That seems like
definitely giving some to charity.
I still have millions more dollars to spend based on my answer. Maybe I'll pick out 5 charities, give them each $1 million or something.
That would be fun. You know what would also be fun is like revitalizing rugged NFT projects and just like buying them and then
Pudgy Penguins has had that happen like twice now.
Similar, yes, something like that. But just there's people out there that have been holding these NFTs. They've been part of the community for months and months. Founders like left, they're 1 foot out the door. You go and you offer them 200 grand, 500 grand, you buy it, and you just spend another $1 million just marketing it and putting on cool events.
You can also just sweep the ever-living shit out of a lot of these tiny projects and like have people wake up with what they thought was worthless NFTs that are very valuable, or things that they had listed for 0.04 and you made the floor 1.8 overnight and they lost all 10 of them and they're like, what the that kind of thing would just be fun, so as like fun. A stupid thing.
Yeah. All right. We've dabbled on this question for a while. Did you?
We have.
Yeah. Did you have anything else to add?
I could talk about what I found reading the NetJets wiki, but it's not actually that interesting. But I would have to look into the pricing for that because that would actually be quite convenient if it was reasonable.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sure it's obscene though.
Yeah, I'm sure it is too. Next question. Slando says, no specific question, but wouldn't mind some kind of Koda speculation. The possibilities are kind of endless. Koda is the...
Oh, you're not even going to read the end of it?
All right, the end of it, he says, appreciate you guys giving me solid content while I drive around for work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Roy didn't even think that was worth mentioning. I appreciated it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You didn't. You just brushed it aside.
Well, it's sort of like he's thanking... Like, then we say, oh, well, this person's thanking us. It's like, well, do we...
We're reading the tweet, Roy.
Okay. Koda. What do you know about Koda? What do you think about Koda?
I think that Koda was like some sort of thing from a while ago, and then
I'm going to talk about Koda because Jamie's doing the best.
I was going to get slightly
some sort of thing from a while ago.
Well, but basically that it seemed kind of interesting as part of a project or a project, but then there was basically we heard like nothing. Nobody talked about it for the most part for a long time, and then all of a sudden it had sort of a major role in the other side video, and now people are talking about it again. That was kind of what I wanted to say when you mocked me for not being super articulate.
Some kind of thing from a while ago.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so a Koda is this creature that...
Oh, it's a creature. Oh, my God. Can't you be more specific than creature?
It's a small creature. It's from the
small
Blankos
relative
block
to what,
party.
Though, Roy? I mean, relative to a galaxy, or relative to an...
You see what I have to put up with every single day?
I'm just giving you back what you gave to me, Roy.
It's a small creature from the project Blankos Block Party, which it's an NFT project that launched. It's been around for ages, over a year. And they had like a fully fledged game, and it was like,
yeah, their trailer was fantastic.
Yeah,
I was like, wow, this project is serious.
Yeah, but it wasn't like on Ethereum. It wasn't clear what blockchain these NFTs. I think they may not even have technically been NFTs, and they're like people buying them. They were saying, well, we're gonna eventually port them over
NFTs
to
eventually, that kind
which
of
I think they might have done. But anyway, that was from that world. And then in the other side video that Yuga Labs tweeted out, we just had like this creature picking up a Bored Ape and like flying through the sky with him. And there's speculation that
Curtis
they will
specifically, I believe, was the ape that he picked up.
Yeah, that was such a great video.
It really is spectacular.
Yeah,
everybody in the NFT space was so excited that night.
Yep. And so there's speculation about like, is there some collab with Blankos Block Party? Is there going to be a drop into the BOIC ecosystem that involves them? Right. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but
Well,
I wouldn't be surprised.
We all saw not we all, but me and you both, and lots of other people saw the leaked investment deck or whatever, and it had something about some creatures that were involved in the mythology that looked similar, but that was a different thing. It wasn't like they were trying to fold that in, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I remember.
It's possible we're like mixing two different things up a bit here, but I do think there'll be some sort of additional NFT character in the BOYC ecosystem to make it more accessible for a lot more people. And maybe that's the Koda, maybe it's not. Yeah.
Okay, you speculated.
I speculated.
Let's go on to the next question. Obi says, how much percentage of your portfolio is, quote, historical NFTs, and what's your favorites? That's an interesting question because to me, it's such a sliding scale. And that whole scale that I consider sliding will also slide as time goes on. So like, I believe that going forward and to just people that are learning about NFTs now, apes are very historical to them, you know, but in the context of people that have been around NFTs, let's say like most of last year or all of last year, when they say stuff like historical NFTs, they're obviously talking about, you know, pre-2020 at the very least NFTs. So it's tough to, you know, not give that caveat ahead of time. But if that's what you're talking about, I don't think I have anything that was minted before 2021. I might have, I mean, I had like a squiggle that would have been, you know, late 2020, but I don't even have that anymore because I ended up swapping it for a summer fragment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good.
You've got a punk.
I got a punk. Yeah. So that's what I was going to bring up. It's like, to my mind, historical NFTs are like, that's sort of where the line is drawn. It's like, if it was pre-CryptoPunks, I'm like, that's probably in my mind historical. And
Definitely.
I guess,
I mean,
now,
I don't see how you can argue against that.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then like, are CryptoPunks historical? I would say yes, they probably are at this point.
I think definitely they are.
Yeah.
I think they used to sort of overplay how historical they were. They called them the first NFTs and all this stuff that we know is not really true. But like, you know, I guess there's a lot of this stuff like My Curio cards that were popular for a while, and then there's like Ethereal Land, and I've just never really gotten into any of that. I feel like it's all kind of interesting, but I could never really. Oh, you know what's another good one is Rare Pepes. That's a huge thing that a lot of people that are into the concept of historical NFTs are really big on.
Yeah. I have none. I have some Curio cards, and I like them. I guess to answer the question, what percentage of my portfolio, again, if CryptoPunks are included, 3%. If they're not, less than 1%.
Yeah.
What's my favorite? It might be a Curio card. Like I have one of those apples. I like the apple. It's, you know, the first art NFT on Ethereum. At least that's what people say. Yeah.
Right. I think the true answer to that is that quantum thing, right? I don't know if you even know what that one is. It sold at Sotheby's last year. Yeah. I think the provenance dictates that really is the first one, but I'm far from an NFT archaeologist. There's like that Leonidas guy who a lot of people feel like is sort of just a hustler, where he'll kind of find old projects, buy them up, and then kind of create the story of how relevant they are. And then just dump them on the people that start buying them. You know, it's a specific sort of instance of that, whereas I can't remember even what the project was, unfortunately, but basically they had a profile picture project that was from before apes, but the metadata was not frozen, or at least that's what people are saying. And then they would like retroactively go and create a bunch of these traits for them that were used by the apes, and then claim their historical value as having been using these traits before the apes and stuff, and then again just try to dump them on people that buy it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I've heard, I can't remember what the project is or if there's multiple, but I've definitely heard people talking, like asking me, like, well, what do you think of this project? They had all the same traits, Bored Ape ripped them off. And
I think it's probably the same one. I think it was like in my mind, it's like a pixelated dog or fox.
Yeah.
But I can't remember exactly what
Doogies
it's
or
called.
something.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's to just kind of to go back to the question a bit more, I feel like a lot of my NFTs are going to be considered historical. It's just that we are so early now that what is considered historical now is stuff that does predate what I own. But you know, if NFTs are going to be what we think they are and last as long as you know, society and culture and the Ethereum blockchain, I would think that anything, you know, art blocks from year one is going to be considered very historical. Now, you know, there's a ton of them, and there's other stuff that's also from around that time. So it's not to say that any single factory piece minted last year will be some uber valuable thing in the future, but it will be historical. In that, you know, within the first 12 months of this institution art blocks that was very early on in NFTs, and, you know, on-chain generative art and all of that stuff. There's a big level of historicity there to me.
You're making me want to go sweep like the flowers floor, which is, I don't know, what's it, like 0.02 or something? They got up to like 0.5 at one point, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, those in transitions, that was amazing. Yeah, they look great. It was amazing how expensive those were for a hot second, given how much supply there was.
Yeah, it was just literally everything on art blocks. 0.06 for transitions. They're holding up surprisingly well. Like, the floor is really thin to 0.1.
Was it a 0.1 mint? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I think it was.
Roy says no to something else, but also doesn't.
Oh, Rachel was here asking if I'd given Cooper food, so I was like shaking my head at her, but then answering you at the same time. You know,
this is good stuff. I'm glad I drew attention to this.
All right, next question. Nostalgic for Tomorrow says, if you could design the perfect drop, what do you suggest Moonbirds does for their drop to make it open to the most people and not just whales and bots? Might be worth.
It's kind of two questions, a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So they're asking how you design the perfect drop, and I guess maybe then the latter part of the question, where they're saying making it open to the most people and not just whales and bots, is sort of a condition for that perfect thing. But you know, if you just want to strictly answer that latter part, you know, you make it a free mint and have an unlimited number of them or something like that, right? That's not what almost anybody really wants. That benefits people that don't want NFTs. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, definitely, people that want NFTs and would love to support this and blah, blah, blah are going to be priced out of whatever they end up doing. So that would be good for them. But predominantly, the people who would benefit most from what I just said are people that still wouldn't take advantage of it. Right.
Yeah. I guess Moonbirds, for those who don't know, it's an upcoming drop by the Proof Collective, Kevin Rose. It's
Ryan
10K.
Carson,
Ryan Carson is the COO of Proof. It is 10K owls, pixelated owls, and it's like the PFP project drop for the Proof Collective, which is this membership club that has 1,000 NFTs that Kevin Rose dropped in like December and now has a floor of like 70 ETH or something.
The Grails project that they did was so cool. That was
really cool. Thing. Yeah. Anyway, so there's a lot of hype around this drop. Basically, it's on April 16th, and they had been saying it's going to be a Dutch auction at 2.5 ETH going down as the starting price. Yeah, and like a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people were like, oh, "That's a pretty high starting price. Maybe we'll get down to 0.5 or whatever." But then the Proof Collective Pass price went up, and then Kevin and Ryan started doing a lot of press, and they're on all these podcasts and like Twitter accounts blowing up, and now people are saying, well, it's definitely going to be gas war at 2.5. So they're considering moving to like a raffle system where you sign up with pre-mint. You have to have 2.5 ETH in the wallet to be eligible. I mean, that's not a perfect solution either. It does seem better than a 2.5 ETH Dutch auction that is almost guaranteed to be a gas war. But yeah, I guess to answer the question, how if you could design the perfect drop. So I thought about this a bit, and this idea is not my original idea. I sort of had the idea for like a blind Dutch auction, And then I know Carlini from Penelope's Country Club and Loom Dart from the Wassies project had a blind auction. And then I was talking to someone from
Loom Dart.
Habit Nest. Yeah. Yesterday or the day before, who was telling me about this as well. Basically, you have a Dutch auction where people bid and they put in their offers, and you can make multiple bids and offers. And it's open for like 24 hours.
When you say bids and offers, you mean those words interchangeably?
Yeah.
Okay.
You make a bid. And then the top 10,000, basically, the highest 10,000, they win. They get to mint, and the mint price is the lowest of that 10,000. So
interesting.
You don't get wrecked if you go too high, unless everyone goes too high, and then
right.
And then if there's some mechanism, and you don't get to know what other people are bidding, and there's obviously the smart contract would have to lock up your funds for that 24-hour period or 2-hour period, however long you want it to make it to be. To me, that seems like a pretty great way to do a drop. Yeah, so I would explore that.
It all seems so difficult when you're still trying to do the, inherent forced scarcity of a certain number of NFTs, to where that there's people that are going to want them more than that number of people, or at least people who are, willing to buy a bunch of them. And the way that the blockchain is, permissionless and all this, and you can just people can make as many wallets as they want and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It all seems very gameable. And I think that people need to be, understanding the sort of drawbacks of the decentralized system, and thinking about these things as far as pros and cons, rather than let's solve the problem. It's like, what do we want to optimize for, and what are we going to be accepting is not optimal, because that's the nature of the game at this point.
Yeah, 100%.
When you are going to have, again, a finite number of them, because if you wanted to allow there to be 1 million of them, you could solve all of those other problems. But then you are kind of not doing the NFT thing to some degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, increasing supply is a really interesting. And it is interesting that we're so far into the game, so to speak, and it's just everything almost is still 10,000. It's a really good number. It's just
it is a good number, and it's actually, if we're talking about people individually kind of being a part of these communities and actually using them, it's sort of, to me, a reasonable number. But what is happening more so a lot is just people buying up lots of them to try and kind of slowly sell later and things of that nature.
Yeah.
In which case you might be able to discourage that by making more, but then it's like, we still don't actually need more. So the only people that are going to buy them are maybe speculators that hoping in the future we will need more. Again, it's just, these all seem like fundamental problems of the system that we're a part of, and there's no perfect solutions. It's sort of the kind of like the blockchain trilemma itself.
All right, I think we answered that.
I think so too. Next question comes from Caleb Anglin Ram. Caleb says, how do you believe the distribution of information affects the distribution of wealth? That's an interesting question.
It's a really interesting question.
I would assume that the more information someone has access to, on average, the more wealth they will be able to acquire, or will already have just inherited from their place in life. But it's kind of lumpy or not a perfect thing. But it's hard for me to imagine that it wouldn't, to some degree, do that. Maybe we're getting into an interesting, weird part of, time in society now, where misinformation is becoming such an actively pushed thing, and there's such a good way to distribute it, that is, the internet and social media, that, the amount of information will, to some degree, be less relevant than the ability to process it and filter it in an accurate way. But that's a different ball of worms or can of worms or whatever the expression is. Something wax.
Yeah, I was gonna basically say a similar thing where I think it comes down now to the quality of the information, and I think that there's no denying that as like level of education increases, wealth increases. The more educated someone is, generally speaking, especially at the lower levels, like taking someone who has no real education to someone who has done like up till 15 years of schooling or something. That is a real tangible, I mean, yeah, there's a correlation there, but all information is not educational, and there's like a lot of information now that's misinformation, like you said, or low quality information, or just noise that is diluting the flow.
Yeah.
So I think,
there's also information that is like not valuable if your station in life doesn't allow you to take advantage of it. For instance, go back like a question or two to this Moonbirds thing. If it sort of becomes popular knowledge that minting this is going to be a successful thing, if you don't have the money to mint it, that information is worth a lot less to you than somebody that can afford it. And that concept applies to 1 zillion thing and 1 zillion situations. You know, there's a lot of people whose station in life currently is such that, you know, they can know that going off to college is going to do better for them or whatever, but they don't have the money to go to college. They have to take care of their, like, obviously there's so much of this stuff. They're literally dying of malaria. So all the knowledge in the world isn't going to help them.
Yeah. I don't really have anything additional to add on that.
Yeah. It's kind of a depressing question.
All right, let's go to a better one. Maybe. I haven't read it yet. Greasy Souls. Are influencers good for the NFT space, or do they just pump their own bags? What do you think, Jamie?
I think that it's influencer to me means you have influence. And as Peter Parker knows, with great power comes great responsibility. And some powerful people use it for ill, some use it for good, and some use it for in between. I think I do have problems in sort of general with a ton of power getting centralized in individuals. Like when you're talking about people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, where they literally have hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth, or, you know, over 100. That's crazy to me. And it's you know, like that old Bakunin quote, you take the most ardent revolutionary, wrap them in absolute power, and they'll be worse than the czar in a year. Like there is a corrupting influence of power and wealth that I feel like there's limits to. But when we're talking about NFT influencers, that's not the same as somebody that can launch nukes or whatever. But to me, again, it's a very case by case basis. You know, like I would argue that Leonidas guy who I brought up earlier is using it mostly for ill. And that's not good. And then there's people, Beanie is another good example of somebody who was definitely an influencer in the space, and I would definitely say was not using it for good. But I don't think just by virtue of having a voice, I mean, you know, like literally Gandhi and Martin Luther King were influencers, right? They were influencing society. They had reach. Nelson Mandela was an influencer. But if you're using your influence,
do you think there were fudders around? Gandhi's just pumping his own bags.
I mean, Martin Luther King got killed by a fudder. It's not a joking matter.
No.
But yeah, you can have a lot of influence and be a shitbag or not a shitbag, I think.
Yeah, I basically agree with that. I also think that
I mean, you're an influencer, right? In the NFT space, you are an influencer. So are you shitty, or?
Well,
do you just use it to pump your own bags? Is the specific question that they're asking.
I would say no.
You're not willing to sell NFTs enough to even accomplish that. You could, but you refuse to sell.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I think it's also not necessarily mutually exclusive. Like, you can be quote unquote good for the space, but also by just lieu of existing and speaking, you are naturally going to talk about things that you know and like, and that will in effect pump your own bags.
Right.
Like, take my
There's a
recent
difference between
CC0
accidental,
newsletter as an
right?
example. Like, it was, I wrote a whole newsletter because because a lot of people did not understand what CC0 is. Like, they put out a poll, 50% of people said, I have no idea what it is. So I wrote about it, and I spoke about some projects that I think most of them I own. So there might have been some sort of effect of pumping my bags. I don't think there was significant, but just by nature of that, there's going to be an effect of bag pumping. But I think that the net positive, that there was a net positive there.
Right. Yeah. So there's, when the term pumping your bags, it can be kind of loaded, and there's sort of a difference between, it's kind of like the difference between, shilling and promoting. You kind of want to be doing this and not that, so to speak. But like, you can organically talk about your beliefs in a way that's organic, and people can make their own decisions from it, versus like some other people will actively be talking about how great something is, some project is, how excited they are for it, and in the same hour span be listing and selling to
Yeah.
people that are reading these tweets. And that's a very different thing. And to me, that's pumping your bags. The other thing is, maybe your bags pump a little bit as a result of you speaking honestly about your belief system and people thinking that you have valid knowledge, versus like literally trying to drum up interest for something that you're actively trying
selling. Yeah.
That's a very different thing to me.
Yeah. That's a really good distinction to make. All right.
Benjamin says, burger or pizza? My voice cracked a little bit there. I would definitely say pizza. I'm gonna go get more water. Too. And you can talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I love I love burgers as much as the next person. I love pizzas more. I just think that there's, I guess, more you can do with them. I guess you can in a burger you can put whatever you want in there theoretically, but for the most part, there's like chicken burger, a beef burger. Maybe you have cheese, maybe you have some vegetables, maybe not. With pizzas, it's just like the sky's the limit. You can top it with anything if you like. I mean, there's Nutella pizzas, there's dessert pizzas, there's just
You say that and like those are two different things almost.
Well, the difference between sort of like a also I think the difference between like a low quality pizza and a really high quality pizza is greater than the difference between
so
a low quality burger and a high quality burger. The ceiling
of pizzas is so much higher than the ceiling of burgers. The best burger I've ever had is like 3 times better than an average burger, whereas the best pizza is like so much better than average.
So much better.
And it's more of a craft to me than a burger. A burger's a little bit more just, I need some fucking food. Let me slam down a burger. I love a good burger, like you were saying.
I love a good burger too.
As I was filling up the water and listening to you just talking about this, like when we're doing it face to face, it seems like we're like answering the question. But as I'm filling up the water and hearing you just on our NFT podcast talk about what you can put vegetables on a burger, it's like, this is so ridiculous. Just I don't know. It was funny.
This is all ridiculous. Yeah.
But yeah. Boy,
we could bring it back to NFTs. Like one of the very first NFTs that we even knew about was called Rare Pizzas. They're still around. I think there's a DAO now, and they're doing some actual cool things, like
giving away
getting
pizza
pizzas.
Or something.
Yeah, giving away pizzas.
Now let's actually keep talking about pizzas for a while. Do you have like a top pizza you've ever had, or a couple that are just really stand out? While you're thinking, I'll just say it. I think New Haven Pizza, there's a city in Connecticut, it's called New Haven, and they have sort of their own style of pizza, and they have a handful of spots that are kind of communally agreed by the people in the area as doing the best New Haven style pizza. And to me, that's sort of the best. I mean, I love, like, again, my wife and I, what is the thing called after a wedding?
Honeymoon.
We did our honeymoon, part of it in Italy, and we had some fantastic margarita pizzas there that were kind of as good as anything. But in terms of something that is at all something I have access to now, I'm not into the Chicago style. I love a good New York slice, but the New Haven is in general a a lot crispier than the New York style, and I think it's great. And we go once every couple months. It's like a 3-hour drive or something, but just to get pizza.
What's the how does it compare to like Italian Neapolitan style pizza? Is it similar, or is there some?
It's much more similar to a New York style.
Okay.
It's actually not really close at all, I would say, to a Neapolitan style, because there's like, to me, a good Neapolitan, the crust is again, this is funny, this is our NFT podcast, but it's sort of more about the chew to it, right? Whereas the New York style is a little bit of, you kind of have a balance between the chew and the crisp. This is ridiculous. Whereas New Haven, it's kind of pure crunch.
Okay.
It's so
See,
good.
I don't think I would love that. I like the chew to the crust.
Yeah,
of the
no, I mean, I do
Neapolitan style.
too. I like a well-made one of any style. But the thing that I think about when I think about top-tier pizza these days is New Haven style.
Like, we could never have this discussion about burgers, I don't think. Like,
no, 100%.
What do you like? You like a medium? You like a medium rare? You like cheese, not cheese? Like blue cheese?
I like medium.
Yeah.
But while we are here, I want it medium. I want cheese, and I want mustard. After that, it's like I'm open to suggestion, but those are kind of mandatory for me.
Yeah.
Or I guess medium isn't necessarily mandatory, but that's a preference. But cheese and mustard are musts.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, let's move on. P. Teza Bug says, I'm still confused. If Yuga Labs gave the punks IP rights to holders, what did they actually buy, and how can they monetize?
Okay.
That's a good question.
Do you know the answer to this? I can speculate, but I don't know the answer specifically.
I know at least two specific things that they bought or they got. One is the contracts to these collections so that they can, if they desire, and I think Meebits does have secondary market royalties, but basically they can get secondary market royalties if they want. I know punks have never had them, so maybe they'll never implement them there, but for Meebits that they get those, I guess. So I think they're bought and sold on OpenSea, and I guess, I don't know, maybe Meebits have no royalties either. But the second part is that they acquire just a ton of, I think 1,700 Meebits and 400 punks or something. Which
the
obviously
dev's still owned.
Yeah, which is not probably not. We don't know how much they paid for the entire thing, but that's some real tangible value that they did get.
Yeah. The other thing and this is me speculating, is that I think it's similar to the Apes thing, where they own the IP, and what they're actually giving to the punk holders is commercial rights to use that IP, which is different from the punk owners actually owning the IP.
Yeah.
Whereas before, again, that's still less than the punk holders had before. But now they have these sort of unlimited commercial licenses. But that's me guessing on what happened. I didn't look at contracts. I don't know any of that stuff. Yeah. And, I've kind of read the same news articles or whatever as the person asking the question that are not super specific probably about that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the true answer is we don't fully know. Like, it's not been made public how much they paid, what they got, aside from knowing that they got the NFTs,
private keys, and to the contract.
Yeah,
the
website,
bunch of the
presumably.
NFTs specifically. Yeah. Our last question comes from Stephen Miller. Hopefully not the shitty one.
I don't even know who that is.
He was a member of the Trump administration. Anyway, two-parter, because the concepts, by the way, I'm almost sure it's not that Stephen Miller. Two-parter, because the concepts are important to understand for collectors, can you explain the differences between a ranked auction and a Dutch auction? Then, what are the best strategies for beginners and more advanced minters approaching a Dutch auction? I don't actually know what a ranked auction is.
I don't either. I was hoping you did.
That's funny. I guess we'll have to figure that out so we can answer it
real quick Googling
a little bit.
A ranked auction promotes a very close auction when you have a number of participants on a similar price level. That is not a good description. In a ranked auction, participants see their position for each lot relative to the other participants. Generally, it is the most popular auction type as it works for the majority of situations. So I think it's just a regular
like
auction,
a traditional auction.
Yeah,
but not blind. But not blind.
Not blind, yeah.
Because there's those written ones or whatever, which is different because you don't see where you are in it.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing too, I was thinking about this earlier in terms of Dutch auctions specifically. There's been a lot of talk lately about how really, and this relates to like the bonding curve thing, but anyway, a Dutch auction is meant to give everybody the lowest price that the Dutch auction got down to. But the term Dutch auction in the NFT space, I feel like, the way language works is if something gets used a certain way enough, that's just what it means. That's because that's what the idea
is. Bonding curves.
Right, bonding curves. Whereas that was used to describe what people were initially calling a FOMO ramp. But because it was so utilized that way, that just sort of became the new definition for bonding curve. So now when people say the words Dutch auction, I'm not even sure if they're going, I'm using the strict prior definition or the way that it's more commonly used today. And like for something like Moonbirds, they're telling us it's a Dutch auction. I don't know what they're talking about. But I'm sure we'll all be able to find out quite soon. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing to put out there because I suspect 95% of people talk about it in reference to the NFT space where you mint early, you pay more, mint later, and then you get it for cheaper. I think...
But those 5% are very vocal about this is not a Dutch auction. This is not a Dutch auction.
Yeah. To my mind, I think like Dutch auctions work so great if you're just trying to sell one thing. Like if you're trying to sell a one-of-one item and you start the price high, when it drops, whoever wants to pay, like when someone's like, all right, I'm willing to pay that much, they're going to pay it. And like, that's great. That's just true price discovery right there. When there's a 10K collection and it's like people start buying it, it just adds this whole layer of complexity and game theory. And like, well, I'm not going to mint until I see other people start minting. Yeah. Looking at pending transactions on the blockchain and
especially when they do the levels, right? That's another thing people have been talking about a bit lately is that as far as Dutch auctions are concerned, if you can have one that is continuously going down at a steady rate rather than going, okay, we're starting at 3, then we're going to 2.5, then we're going to... That second one is worse, generally speaking, because you don't have a steady, gradual increase in demand as prices going down. You have these steps where people are going, I'm not going to get it here, but the second it goes here, I'm going to, and then all of a sudden you end up with gas words again.
Now the gas will.
And, I'm
people surprised we don't see
more at this level than they would have here because they have to pay the gas to fight with the other people that were also waiting for this level, that kind of thing.
I'm surprised we don't see more of the gradual stuff. Like Bored Apes did it with
maybe
mutants.
Harder to do it.
Yeah, but it's not impossible because we've seen it.
No, it's not impossible. I think we will see more of it going forward.
I know Artblocks mentioned that they were looking into it and planning to move towards that like 6 months ago when they first introduced it.
Which would sort of indicate that it's not super easy if they haven't already done it.
Yeah, or maybe they changed their priorities for one reason or another. What are the best strategies for beginners and then more advanced minters approaching a Dutch auction?
Now, you have a great video about this that you did, recently, right?
I have a video where I live streamed the Artblocks curated Dutch auction, and like 2 days ago, I wrote a big post in Zen Academy talking about Dutch auction strategy. So we'll link to the video, and if you're in Zen Academy, anyone can join and read that post as a free member as well.
So those are great resources, but give us sort of an overview of kind of what you talked about and showed.
Yes, I mean, basically there's like 2 ways usually that a Dutch auction will play out. One is that whatever the starting price is, the market decides that's a great price. We're going to mint at that no matter what. Similar how Moonbirds is, and there's like a gas war at the top price, and then it's not too different to a normal drop. The other way is
not at all, really, right?
Yeah, the other way is sort of it's people just start like no one wants to be the first person to mint, basically, except for like some people who are really rich and time poor and don't care. or really want to support the artists and stuff like that. And have the money to afford it. But generally 99% of people, they'll be like, well, I'm going to wait and see and watch and like wait till the price drops, and I want to pay the lowest price I can. But I also want to ensure that I don't miss out. So
right, sort of a balancing act between how good of a deal you want to get and how much you want to ensure that you definitely get one. That's because to me, I've definitely been in some of these Dutch auctions for art blocks where I want one and I want to get a good price, but I'm also willing to not get one if I can't. And it's just, you kind of got to balance those two things. But keep going.
It depends on your your personal desires. But basically what everyone does is they just watch and see what everyone else is doing. And when it looks like more and more people are minting, that's when you want to mint. So there's two ways to really look at that. One is on the website itself, there's usually a counter saying 200 minted, 500 minted, 2,500 out of 10K minted. And you can just see how quickly that's going up. But there's usually a delay between the website and what's actually happening on the blockchain. So the best way to view it generally is to look at the smart contract itself via Etherscan. And there's just a pending transactions button there. And you can see how many pending transactions there are. And literally just refresh that page. And that's what I do for almost every drop. And usually right when the price drops down, by an increment, there'll be like a little bit of a spike if some people want to mint, or maybe there's none. But in that following 10, 20 seconds, you can start to get an idea of, are there 30 people minting and then it just goes down to 0 pending and like everyone is waiting? Or does the 30 turn into 100 and then 300 within the course of 10 seconds? And then if that's the case, well, it's probably going to go to 1,000 next. All right, I want to start minting now. And that's generally my approach.
Yeah, and this seems like it. This really applies again to the step down ones that we're talking about. Because if you are doing the gradual thing, the slight delay of the website and all that would be a lot less relevant, and you wouldn't need to strategize as much because there wouldn't be these cliffs where all of a sudden demand is going to go up a lot, but is it going to go up a lot where for instance, you'll see like an art blocks drop where there's 1,000 pieces, right? And maybe 70 of them have been minted. Sometimes it'll go down the next thing and like 200 of the remaining will get minted, or all of the remaining will get minted. And that's a big difference. And that's where looking at the Etherscan like you're talking about and knowing how much gas prices are going to be is very relevant to your success in the drop. But again, in the gradual ones, theoretically, unless the supply is so little, and again, it's kind of like that first thing you're talking about where maybe it's barely a Dutch auction at all because everybody's trying to mint right away, that kind of thing. Unless that's happening, it almost isn't a strategy thing. Then you really do just get to kind of go, what is it worth to me, and what does it seem like it's worth to everybody else as I'm watching the curve go down and the number minted go up? And you can just make a personal decision and don't really have to strategize other than your own personal financial and emotional beliefs or whatever.
Yeah. And last thing I'll add is that especially in the drop down situation, when pending transactions start going up a lot, there'll usually be some sort of a gas war if there's enough demand. And so then I keep an eye on the website Block Native. There's like a gas estimator which tells you like what priority fee do you need and what max fee do you need to ensure like with a 99% chance your transaction will get mined in the next block. And it's not entirely accurate because it could say this is an estimate, but then there's a bunch of people just put in amounts higher than that. But just keeping an eye on that website, which we'll have a link to in the show notes as well, helps inform me of like what I should be setting my gas at to have a decent chance of getting it through. And then if I see that it spikes up after my transaction went through, I might go into MetaMask, click speed up transaction or edit the gas price or whatever the button is, and then put in a new amount. If pending transactions continue going up and the gas amount required for it to be processed keeps going up, and I really want to pay it, and I'm okay paying an extra 0.1 or 0.15 or whatever the additional gas on top is going to be.
Yeah, that video is very instructive. People should check that out for sure if they're curious about this kind of thing. Yeah, and you kind of just you just gave a great explanation of it, but to actually see it done is helpful for people.
Did you watch the video or did you see any of it?
I watched some of it, yes, but it's also a thing that I kind of knew what I would be seeing.
Unfortunately, the video came out a little bit blurry. The tech wasn't great on my end, but
I take it back. The video's not that
good. the gist of it is all there. Yeah.
Right. And you don't need to actually see the numbers on the Etherscan video to know that when they're looking at their own Etherscan, you will be able to see everything quite clearly.
Yeah.
And you're guiding them through what you need to do and where you need to go to see those things.
Yeah.
Which is all very easy to convey, even with poor resolution.
Yeah. All right, that's all our questions. Shall we play?
That was the last question.
Well, Rachel just said Dota, so I guess we're going to play Dota after this. Well,
oh my God, I have stuff to do, but I would love to do that.
I have so much stuff to do as well, but I have no meetings for the next hour and 15 minutes, so we have a window. But let's play What Am I Thinking first? Or what are you thinking? I always forget the name of this game. What's it called?
What am I thinking?
What am I thinking? All right. Okay, I got one.
3, 2, 1. Saint Bernard.
Teeth.
Saint Bernard and teeth. Saint Bernard and teeth.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Cujo.
Bite.
Cujo and bite. Cujo and bite. I'm thinking of a video game I played recently where something has the ability called bite, but I can't remember what it is. You said bite and I said Cujo?
Correct.
I mean, that's like the same thing, right? Fuck.
I don't think so.
Oh, I got one. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Rabies.
Oh, rabies is good.
Mine was better.
Yeah.
Rabies and chew. Oh no, this is bad. Okay, I got one.
Okay.
It's not gonna work though. 3, 2, 1. Medicine.
Animal.
Medicine and animal.
Okay.
Medicine and animal. 3, 2, 1. Veterinarian.
Yeah.
I used a more formal term, I suppose, but all right, nice.
I was pretty tempted to just
say noodles or some shit.
Yeah, just completely whiff it. Cool. That was good.
Speaking of veterinarians, it sounded like you had something important.
No, I did, but then I remembered we already went through that, so forget it.
Have you watched Schitt's Creek? The
Netflix,
no. It's not a Netflix show, but it's on Netflix.
I have not.
One of the characters is a vet. We don't need to talk about it. Okay, this has been episode 38. It's a good show. Right. People should watch it, maybe.
Yeah. People should check out our YouTube and stuff and follow us on Twitter and Bored Apes Twitter account and join us in the Discord. That's pumping. Don't litter, with the loyal listener.
Donate blood, we said.
Yeah. Be a good person.
Right.
All right. Eat healthy, exercise, brush your teeth, floss.
Vote for the politicians that I like and not the ones that I don't like. That kind of thing.
All right.
Bye.
Two bored apes talking NFTs, DeFi, and some random stuff. Two bored apes talking NFTs.